Hi there, in this video I'll be going over the unboxing and setup of an APC BACK-UPS BE850G2 UPS I recently purchased. This will be a UK model, but it is available in other regions with the appropriate power connectors. As always, if you like the video, please tap the like button and consider subscribing. First, let's get it unboxed. The first thing in the box is a quick start guide and the USB to UPS data cable. This is used to connect the UPS to a PC, Mac or other device like a NAS box so that it can signal to it what the actual state of the UPS is. Then we've got the UPS itself. I'll put that to one side, and that's all that there is in the box. This particular model is the APC BACK-UPS BE850G2 version, which is around 520 watts. There are other capacities available if you need to cover a higher or lower load. This one has 8 UK sockets. 6 of the sockets are surge protected and battery backed, with the other 2 being surge protected only. It is available in multiple regions, so the sockets will be applicable to that region or country. I also believe that the model for the US is a completely different design to this as well. Next to those, there's a USB-A and USB-C port. They supply up to 5 volts at 2.4 amps. I believe that this is shared over both ports, but we'll find out later on if that is the case. Below the USB ports, there's the battery charge indicator, a mute button and a power button. Moving to the right side of the UPS, there is the data port to connect to your computer, a circuit breaker button, and 2 RJ45 ports to connect to either an RJ45 modem or Ethernet connection, or you can use it for an RJ11 cable from a phone line socket. The speed on both ports is up to 100 megabits per second. These ports may differ depending upon the region or country. And then there's the power cord, which is hardwired with a plug for the applicable region. The cable length is around 1.8 meters or just under 5'11". The length of the USB data cable is around 1 meter. The last 2 things I'll make a note of here is that the UPS is line interactive rather than online, and it doesn't offer automatic voltage regulation. Now let's set up the UPS. Before you can actually use the UPS, the battery needs to be connected up. The yellow label on the top shows how it's done. First, flip the UPS over so that the bottom is facing upwards towards you. Slide open the cover, pull out the battery, and then slide the red wire connector into the red socket. Put the battery back in and then slide the cover back on. And that's all that there is to connect up the battery. Flip it back over and then peel off the yellow label. Finally, peel off the plastic on the control panel. Okay, with the battery now installed, let's go and power this thing on and see how much power it's got. For my particular unit, it had at least 75% charged as 3 of the 4 lights were on. The last bar was flashing on and off, indicating it was charging. The power usage at the wall was around 7.4 to 8.5 watts while the battery was charging the final bar. At this point, nothing was plugged into the UPS. Moving on to the power draw for just the UPS with the battery fully charged, I left it powered on for 24 hours, again with nothing connected to it, to get an idea of how much power the UPS was using on its own. I started the test at 11:53 AM and checked it the following day at 11:54 AM. In total, it consumed 0.094 kilowatt hours when I checked it after 24 hours. That's not too bad. As mentioned before, the UPS has 2 USB ports for charging. It has both a USB-A and a USB-C port. The maximum it can charge is 5 volts at 2.4 amps. The amps are shared between both ports. I tried each port of their own with an iPad Pro, and the results were that the USB-A port charged at 4.9 volts and 1.34 amps. When I moved the iPad Pro over to the USB-C port, it charged at 4.24 volts and 2.45 amps. If you want to charge something from these ports, the USB-C port is likely the fastest option for you. I then hooked up a second iPad Pro so that both ports were charging at the same time. The power delivery on the USB-A port was 4.17 volts and 0.57 amps, and the USB-C port was 4.18 volts and 1.82 amps. That pretty much confirms the sharing of the 2.4 amps of load over both ports. I'd say it's enough for charging a mobile phone or a tablet, but I'd also try to use one port at a time to get the fastest charging time. Before turning off the power to the UPS, the power draw was around 66 to 70 watts. Connected to the UPS was a Mac Studio M1 Max, a Dell U3425DE 34-inch ultra-wide monitor, an Elgato Wave 3 microphone, the controller for my standing desk, a pair of Bose QC45 headphones that were charging via the desk controller, and lastly, 2 SSDs. Oh, the Nintendo Switch was not wired up. I just put it there until I get around to sorting out the cabling. In terms of workload on the Mac Studio, I had only Firefox open, with 2 tabs for YouTube Studio, 3 live streams running but muted, a couple of other tabs with YouTube videos ready to view, and the final tab was the one for the video I'm currently playing from my channel. Like and subscribe, by the way. I turned the mains power off at around 11:30 AM. The UPS will then beep to warn you it's on battery. The power button light also starts to blink. macOS will also give you a warning to indicate that the computer is now running from the UPS battery and you should save and shut down. Anyway, the runtime I got before the battery hit below 25%, which is what I set the Mac to shut down at, was 46 minutes. After 30 minutes, 12 PM, the battery was down to 59%. At 12:10 PM, it was at 45%. At 12:16 PM, 46 minutes after the initial power off of the power to the UPS, the Mac shut down. Overall, it's more than enough runtime for me, but my workload was pretty light, so the more power you draw, the shorter the runtime. What I would recommend is that you should always check with the vendor what runtime they estimate you'll get. Most have an online calculator that you just enter your power draw and indicate what runtime you want, and they'll give you some recommended solutions. After completing the runtime test, I put the UPS on charge with nothing connected to it. The UPS itself was also turned on. Here are the results I observed when I checked throughout the day. I first started charging it at 12:21 PM. It was charging the first bar as the UPS was under 25% from the runtime test I'd just done. The power draw at the wall was 15 watts. At 13:51, the first bar was done and it was on to the second. Again, 15 watts at the wall. At 14:59, the second bar was still charging, still doing 15 watts at the wall. At 16:44, the second bar was done, so 50% has been charged so far. 15 watts again at the wall. At 19:25, the third bar was done, with one left to go. This time, the load at the wall had dropped to 7.7 watts. The UPS was finally done charging at 21:23. I had checked it 10 minutes prior and it was still charging. The total charge time was roughly 9 hours and 2 minutes. Not exactly the fastest, but it'll do. In terms of operating noise, there is none. The cooling is completely passive as there's no fans inside the UPS. The only noise that the UPS makes is a beep when it's turned on or off, and an alarm beep when it loses mains power and switches over to the battery. There is the odd click from time to time, but my understanding is that this is normal as it's just a relay switching to the battery, perhaps for testing the battery or when a power loss occurs. In that case, the UPS would also beep for the alarm. I'll just briefly mention a few other things that I noticed while using the UPS. First, when the UPS is off at the UPS but not at the wall, the sockets for battery and surge are off. However though, the surge-only sockets do both work. Next, both the USB ports require the UPS to be turned on at the UPS to work. Finally, when the mains power is lost, the USB ports for charging do also work when the UPS is running off of the battery. So I hope that was of use to you. If you got value from this, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.